evening, everybody. This is the final session of the day. I hope you've all managed to get a drink. The bar will be closed in a second. No point in running out now, it's too late. We will reopen the bar in 30 minutes. I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Andrew Trendell from the NME.
Thank you. There you go. Evening all, I'm Andrew Trendell from the NME. Thanks to Mark's wonderful introduction there. Welcome to the last session of the day. Thanks for sticking around for a free drink. This is I Still Believe, where we'll be taking the time to celebrate what's been achieved and what's possible thanks to everyone in this room and beyond. Firstly, thank you all for being here. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for giving music a home, because there just wouldn't be a music industry without you. So, cheers. Now, if you could please welcome back to the stage Mark David and Beverly Whitrick and the amazing Laura Kelly. So Laura put together this amazing, sorry, I'm too old to lean down, this amazing feature in your venues book, which you should all take some time to read. It's incredibly comprehensive, celebrating everything that's happened in the last 10 years and everything that you guys have achieved. Discuss.
Oh, wow. What an intro. Yeah, so it was an amazing commission that came in from the wonderful guys at MVT to really dig into the 10 years of the organisation, the 10 years of the campaign, the 10 years of what everyone in this room has achieved, which is obviously why you are now all award winners. So congratulations, everybody. And so it, as I say, kind of a dream commission for me, because I'm never at my never happier than when I'm in the front row of a grassroots music venue, screaming along to some new music and just loving it and feeling our community. So what I went away and did was speak to everybody. It's true primary research. There were dozens of interviews. There were a lot of phone calls to Bev. Thank you, Bev. And a lot of the team at MVT did a lot of research to make sure that what you hold in your hand today is a representation of the achievements that have happened over the last 10 years. So many organizations are really bad at this, are really bad at realizing that it's important to give people the resource to start from, to tell your own story, because if you do not tell your own story, that story is lost. So there's some really brilliant moments in there. There's moments like the very first Venues Day where they were on the boat afterwards, and I heard a lot about the hangovers that happened afterwards. So if you were there and had a sore head, you weren't alone. But it was the boat that the Sex Pistols had celebrated God Save the Queen on. There's moments at the Scottish Parliament when Nick from Sneaky Pete's was telling me about how they were in a corridor rewriting legislation on the fly while it was actually being debated in the chamber. So there's moments where there are these amazing lightning in a bottle times that would not be captured without the foresight of MVT to give me the freedom to go and do that research. So thank you, MVT, and thank you everyone in the room who talked to me for it, which is many of you.
And you said that the venue that changed your life was the Limelight in Belfast, right?
It's one of them. It's one of them. The story I tell in that is from going to see the Lemonheads in the mid-90s on the Car Button Cloth tour. When my best friend at the time bought me a ticket for it, but did not buy herself a ticket for it, so, which was nice of her. And I was 14 and it was an 18 venue, and the bouncer very kindly pretended to believe my fake ID, which was really obviously fake. And my poor mum had to come down and pick me up afterwards. I don't know if you, in the room, how many people know the Lemonheads, but there's a Lemonheads song called Outdoor Type, and it has the line in it about the car breaking down. That literally happened. My mum sat outside because Evan Danta was running so late. Big Jack Daniels fan, by the way, so thank you, Jack Daniels. Drank a whole bottle of Jack Daniels on stage that night. So she was sat outside with the radio on, obviously killed the car battery because they were running so late. She then had to get the AA out to get us towed. So you can imagine how popular I was that night. So yeah, thanks, Mum.
And then that love of live music led you to do the Venue Watch campaign for the Big Issue, which is insane if you think about it, a good cause within a good cause.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and what big issue is about community, and is about a lot of the kind of campaigning about it is keeping those high streets alive, because that's where the vendors are able to make an income by people, by footfall of people coming through. And so that there's a really good connection, because all of the venues bring people into those areas, and that's, it's one of the massive advantages of grassroots music venues, is the massive impact that goes beyond them. So, people come into the town, they buy, they've maybe got a taxi in, so that's money in their pockets. They buy a dinner, so that's money in their pockets. They keep areas alive. So that was one of the big reasons that I was able to get the idea past my editor.
Which explains a lot about the need for music venues and the need for the Music Venue Trust. And as you can see, there's a very, very well-designed timeline behind us and in your books, which you should all read. Let's go right back to 2014. Mark, Bev, what were you thinking?
I agree, and therefore I resign. What were you thinking? It wasn't. I mean, it's a really great timeline of the actual history of the organisation. But there is a prehistory to this, and there are a few people in this room that remember that prehistory. I'm looking at Tom. I think Barney Jevons is here. For about 5 or 6 years before 2014, there wasn't really anything like this, but there were some other conferences, some other things that a few of us that ran venues would go to. Between about 2008 and 2014. There just started being less people in the room. And there wasn't anything specific, but it was just, I think, for me personally, the closure of the Astoria was a fucking unacceptable crime against humanity. And that pissed me right off. But the closure of the Leicester Princess Charlotte, the Duchess of York in Leeds, nobody seemed to care. And it just didn't sit right with us. So we all started talking about, well, somebody's going to do something. Obviously. And then after probably too many years, frankly, we realised actually nobody was going to do anything. They were quite happy to see these venues close, and that was just another place they could build flats, and another bit of our community and live music lost that nobody cared about except us. And so gradually we started thinking there should be an organisation that did care. And I like to liken how I ended up on this stage to that bit in the 60s comedy film where there are 100 soldiers lined up in a line, and the sergeant major says, somebody step forward and volunteer, and 99 people step backwards. And then there's one idiot left there who appears as volunteered. That's pretty much me, I think. I think a lot of people that have run a venue could have done what I'm not particularly special amongst the venue operators. I don't think there's anything special about our venue above what's special about any of your venues. But I ended up in the position of leading the organisation, and I think very quickly I realised that I'm chaotic and idiotic and won't keep my mouth shut. So it would probably be a good idea if we had somebody who wasn't like that. Hello, Bev.
Okay, that's me then. So my interest in Music Venue Trust was that I come from an arts development background, a culture background, and I worked for 3 local authorities for as long as I could stand it, and it always really, really annoyed me that people didn't think grassroots music venues were proper venues. They didn't think they were arts venues. I once got told that here's an arts centre, here's a theatre, oh, and there's some noisy boys at the bottom of town who put on some music. And to me, that's just really disrespectful. So one of the things that I wanted to do was be part of something that changed the view of what we now call grassroots music venues. And so we embarked on a project to do that, which, as Laura's article says, one of the things we did was give them a new name. Because you...
Yeah, that was Bev. So
right,
a round of applause for Bev for turning it to toilet circuit to grassroots music venues.
I should say, the conversation went exactly like this. Can you imagine a minister of the Crown standing up and saying, I'm really worried about the toilet circuit? No. What should we call it? And Bev just literally sat down for 30 minutes and came back up and said, grassroots music venues. And we all went, genius! That's it. That'll do it. And now grassroots seems to be like the definition of everything, doesn't it? I don't know whether you've literally changed the lexicon and invented it, but I don't remember it being called grassroots sports before it was grassroots. I think grassroots music venues has become grassroots become a catch-all term for things that are outside the mainstream.
Well, toilet sports is a different thing. Now we're cooking. So at what point did you feel attitudes changing and ears opening and people being kind of open to this idea that grassroots venues are worth something? Well, they were always worth something, but that they were willing to listen to the conversation and fight for it. Oh.
I mean, we're kind of still battling some people who still don't get it, obviously. I think during the first few years, we won over some people, but I do think it was probably what happened in the pandemic that sort of really changed the gear of it and really gave more visibility to Music Venue Trust as well as to grassroots music venues. And Mark ended up in every government meeting going, discussing what could possibly be done. And the team that we already had, hello, those of you that are over there, were then joined by a lot of people we pulled in. Some of them thought it was temporary and they still work for us now. But I think the Save Our Venues campaign absolutely changed things in a really huge way. And it feels funny to say thanks to the pandemic, when obviously it was awful and so much of the negative fallout from that we're still living through. But actually for our sector, there was definitely a step change thanks to Save Our Venues and everybody who supported it, because there are so many people who, people in this room and people beyond who suddenly stepped forward, raised money, put money forward, and perhaps who we hadn't realised were supportive, that became more tangibly supportive during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's funny because, Mark, you said earlier today, we are not going to let this happen. You're not going to just be able to close all these venues. One of the options isn't that all of them close, which is the difference from what you were just talking about at the very beginning, which was that they were closing and no one did care. And I think you're quite right, Bev, that, from all of the conversations I had and from my own experience, that was when it changed, was when we really were on the precipice of it all happening, and all in one go, communities all over the country said no.
Well, I'm going to... there's been lots of rounds of applause for people who did things, but I should say, for example, Andrew, particularly at the NME, changed the conversation around these grassroots music venues around the pandemic. Suddenly it was front and centre with the kind of message you don't know what you got until it's gone. And I think we had been saying that for 6 years already. We were in a really, like Bev says, it's quite difficult to be positive about a pandemic, which is fucking horrific and terrible. But you have to try and look for the good things that happen in anything. And the reality is that we were uniquely placed because we were already in crisis. We'd been in crisis since 2008. We'd been doing this work for 6 years. When the government looked for somebody they could phone up who had data about how terrible things were, we already had all the fucking data. We had hundreds of venues who were already saying, this is impossible to do, and by the way, now there's a pandemic. So it really wasn't difficult for us. It's worth reminding people, we got the time there, it's worth reminding people, grassroots music venues were the first cultural sector in the UK, grassroots music venues in the UK were the first cultural sector anywhere in the world to receive money from the government so that they wouldn't close down. I think that's incredible. I regularly meet people who are in museums and galleries and things who think they're part of the cultural fabric in a way that we're not, who are still talking about, well, how the fuck did you do that? And the answer is we were ready. We had a movement going already. And I think that you're right. It's definitely galvanized it. When I look across the room now, there's about 3 times as many of you, which I'm really fucking happy about. But it definitely provided the moment where we were able to say, this is a real thing that's actually happening and genuinely matters to communities. And the stories you ran, Andrew, around it, the number of hits and the things, you put a story out and we'd raise another £20,000 in 10 minutes for a venue that was going to close down otherwise. I think it was a really remarkable thing. But it simply speaks to the reason why we have this organisation anyway. Everybody cares about this. I don't meet anybody in the music industry who doesn't think there should be grassroots music venues. Well, actually, I've met one. He's a fucking idiot. But you know what I mean? It's like everybody cares about this. We haven't voiced it well enough. Maybe that's what we've done here in the room. Maybe that's what we've done with the movement we've created here. We've finally said out loud, music in our communities actually matters, and the people who run these venues actually are deeply passionate, really care about their work, really care about their communities, and you should be respectful of them, and you should support them. To me, it's unbelievably obvious. Maybe it wasn't to other people.
Yeah. And Laura, when you were putting this feature together, I mean, what did you grow to learn and understand about the venues that weathered the storm and came out of the other side of that, and what kept them going?
They're really fucking good at their jobs. I get really, really cross at people who pretend like, oh, there's this one thing that all of the venues should do, and if they did this, it would be fine. And you're like, really? The people who are running venues are brilliant. They're amazing. They are already doing all of the incredible things. And that made me really cross. But the other thing I think that I realized that I thought was so important was that they're all incredible advocates now. And that's an amazing achievement of this community. And that, you know, and getting the stats is that they're all able to go out and advocate for the communities, like we saw in the select committee, that you're able to just watch all of these venues who are able to talk about their own experience, but put it in context, talk about statistics, talk about the cultural impact and the cultural value. And that's an amazing thing. And I think that's something to be able to all advocate for the community. And it's not all, I mean, Mark is incredibly brilliant at it and, you know, loud. But that everyone here is able to do that and go out into the communities and do it. I think that was really heartening to see. And
it's just the realization that if a gig stops, it's much more than that band not being able to play a half-hour set. That half-an-hour set means so much more. There's a simple brass tacks, as if you pay a $5 to get in, that helps the sound man get paid, that helps the man behind the bar get paid, the man on the door gets paid, the band gets to fail and come back and be better, the person in the crowd gets a life-changing experience, someone might stay in a hotel down the road. So much comes from that half hour of magic, doesn't it?
I back to what Laura just said, what you're just saying there, the CMS Select Committee hearings with venues was a real eye-opening experience for us, as much as it was. One of the MPs on that committee said to me, this is the most convincing evidence we've ever had from any group of people we've investigated ever before. And you in the room should be unbelievably proud of that. I was just talking to Romana over there from the Hot Tin, and I was saying, listen, they absolutely, you read that report, they absolutely bought into the evidence. And why did they do that? Because the evidence was really compelling, it was really passionate, and it was really well expressed. Sophie, where's Sophie? As I think Sophie said to me, we don't need to do anything. Like, there doesn't need to be any evidence from us. The evidence already come from the venues themselves, and they expressed it in a way that was absolutely stunning. If I'm proud of anything in the 10 years, I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of the people in this room that can now explain exactly what it is they do.
And you mentioned it earlier, the reason everyone's still here is because there is hope.
I think one of the nicest things about today is a number of people have stopped me and said that this feels like a more hopeful Venues Day. And it's really interesting in a time that Mark talked about statistics about how shitty things are out there for you, that the very act of coming together actually does cause people to feel more hopeful. Because, I mean, the very point of Venues Day in the first place was to stop you all feeling so alone and so isolated. And there is a lot more work to do, but I do think in 10 years we have come an awfully long way, and I think that does, in itself, sort of suggest hope for further movement.
10 years' time, where are we going to be?
Where will Mark and I be, or where will MVT be?
The
I think
MVT,
those might be
the
two
scene.
slightly different questions. Well, I hope Music Venue Trust will be an even more recognised force, and grassroots music venues will be properly respected and recognised as the cultural venues and gems that they are. And, well, I mean, obviously, the ultimate dream is MVT wouldn't be needed because you're all secure and we can all go off and do something else. There is also a possibility that MVT happens in some form in order to carry on offering some support for the things where it's needed. But it would be really, really lovely if we didn't have to be doing all the things we're doing now because we'd reached a far better place and the arguments we have to have with people no longer needed to be had because we'd won those. Wouldn't that be lovely?
What are you going to do next?
I'm taking Bev to Thailand on Friday. Does that count?
That counts.
Does anybody doesn't know, it's our 25th wedding anniversary next week.
Which is nice.
Congratulations.
One of us has won more than the other. That's what you're all thinking, isn't it? One of us has got better out of that. Where are we going with this? Look, I think charities, this is something I've always thought. Charities should aim to be dinosaurs. There should be a point in the future where you should be extinct. You know, there's a service charity where it's always going to be needed. Interestingly, Music Venue Properties is a service charity. They will always need to hold the properties. Where will we be in 10 years? Well, ideally, as Bev said, Music Venue Trust wouldn't necessarily need to exist, although it might be the mechanism for distributing the grassroots contribution, and it might be the thing that brings together a day like this so that you can all understand there are other people like you, that you're respected and valued. That's the thing that's worth doing. Do I want to be running the emergency response team in 10 years' time? With full respect to Sophie, who does an amazing job, and Jay and Lloyd and Stina, who's just come online, and Alid, you know, they do a fucking amazing job. Wouldn't it be brilliant if they didn't have to do it? Wouldn't you, Sophie, really, wouldn't you be happy if you didn't have to do it? So, you know, we should aim for change that is final. You can't build flats next to a music venue unless you protect the music venue. What's wrong with that as a concept? We shouldn't have to keep going back to court, arguing it. You shouldn't, with all due respect to all the people who are making lots of money, and I never minded anybody in the music industry making any money. I think it's a brilliant idea. If there's any artist in here who doesn't want to make any money, let me take you out somewhere and you can give it to me. But look, the point is, it's so obvious to me that when you're at the arenas and stadiums, you should be putting money back into the ecosystem through the promoters and the ticket companies and the agent and the manager and the band. Everybody involved. We shouldn't have to keep arguing about it. That should just be happening anyway. And at the point where it happens anyway, I'll stop telling you off for it. I don't want to shout at people just because I like shouting at people. I think we actually want genuine change that is achievable. And once it's done, I can go and have a nice lie down. Well, that's a good idea, isn't it? Everybody would appreciate if I had a lie down. So we talk about the organisation as though it's us. This organisation is not us, it's you. That's it. It's everybody in this room. That's why we gave the outstanding contribution to the people in the room.
Yeah.
Because every venue right now is relying on a venue operator that is frankly a belligerent arsehole keeping their venue open despite the local council and bits of government and the fucking live music industry apparently not giving a shit. Well, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that within all those fields there are people who really do care, and we're getting more and more of those. But what about if we just did all this naturally? What about if naturally you weren't allowed to shut down music venues, and naturally when you succeed everybody shares in that success to a certain extent, and naturally bands go on tour, and of course the venues are open? That's where we want to get to. That's where I want to be in 10 years. I'm going to say one more thing though. One thing I can tell you is that in 10 years ago, me, Bev, and a few other people who are a bit insane, not so much you, but the rest of us, we all sat in a pub and we said, we're going to have to do something about the ownership of buildings. And in that 10 years, everybody told me, there's no fucking way you can do this. Ownership of buildings will never be changed. It can't be changed. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, we have done something about it. So anybody who tells you now that we can't do something about the ownership of buildings, Tell them to fuck off and grow up, because this organisation and you, who are this organisation, have already done that thing that you said we couldn't do, and now we're going to do all the other things that you said we couldn't do until we've done all the things that you said we couldn't do, and then the music industry will be a better place for everybody.
So, of course, the winners of the Outstanding Contribution Award for this year was all of you. So there's a lot of people to thank, right? We best get started. Everyone who's worked for MVT since 2014.
I think we should have people stand up. I know this is going to be a very long round of applause, but you know what? You all fucking deserve it, and there are some people who work so hard to make this stuff happen. So everyone who's ever worked for MVT, please be upstanding. Woo. Oh, Clara just made it in. Hello, Clara. And just on a personal note, I'd like to get a massive round of applause, please, for Tony Cobrooker. I'm really sadly couldn't be with us today. Woo.
I'm getting the list up. It's a very big list. Do you want to discuss the MVT gurus?
Yeah, I think there are so many people that work with MVT, so we're going to probably have to speed a bit through it, because otherwise we will be here a long time and you'll want to get back to that bar. As Sophie said this morning, we do have gurus who help our venue support team, and they have grown from a tiny, tiny team back in the early days to a really big team today. But I would like to thank them at the same time as MVT's amazing board of trustees, especially Chris Prosser, Simon Hilton and Jason Dorman, who've served the whole 10 years. So, can I ask that if you are a guru, if you are a past or current trustee, that you stand up, please.
Look at these fucking heroes.
And then, I don't know if he's still here, but I do want to give a special mention to Jeremy Mills, who set Music Venue Trust up as a charity and served as a trustee for many years, and then set up Music Venue Properties as a community
Serial
benefit
offender.
society and leads their board. Is Jeremy here? I bet he won't stand up. Where is he? Skulking in the background over there.
Just like you did at school, mate. Just like you did at school, right at the back.
Next up, the amazing patrons, signatories, and all artists who have publicly supported MVT. How many of them?
I mean, there's about 100 patrons. I mean, again, back to that same thing we keep talking about. But it's not just us. Everybody in this room believes in this. Artists believe in this. I think if artists were ever allowed to say what they think should happen, this sector would be funded in a fucking instant. It's the companies that get in the way. It's the gateholders that need to listen more to what artists want, what communities want, what live music audiences want. The patrons have been absolutely stunning. I mean, obviously, we've got to mention Coldplay again, but let's mention Enter Shikari, who went out on a limb. Let's mention Frank Turner, who personally raised £350,000 for venues.
Alien Ant Farm?
Even Alien Ant Farm managed to work out how to put £1 on the fucking tickets. Come on. Stereophonics, you could manage it if Alien Ant Farm can do it. Come on.
Patrons at large.
Yeah, artists are not our only patrons. I mean, you who come to Venues Day will know Steve Lamacq has been a patron for a long time and obviously has been such a great advocate for what we do. But there are other broadcasters and industry patrons as well. And we did want to thank not only Steve with a special thanks, but also Lord Tim Clement Jones and Kerry McCarthy MP. I've been patrons for 10 years. Before lots of MPs and political figures talked about this at all, they were there and are still with us. So sometimes just having people that are prepared to put their name to things is so, so powerful. So every single patron of whatever type is really important to the work we do.
Woo! want to give a shout out to all MVA members?
That's you lot. We made the Music Venues Alliance up. I know some people think they're part of MVT. You're not, that's the charity. Music Venues Alliance is the thing we created to bring you all together and to be able to talk with you, collect information about you, and advocate for you. And every venue that is a part of the MVA is so vital to what we do. You know, again, it goes to explaining why the award came to you. But the Music Venues Alliance is an unusual thing, and I think other countries kind of envy that we have it because they don't understand how we have such a close relationship with venues. So a big part of the success of what we have been able to do is because of you in the MVA. So please give yourselves a round of applause.
I think I should just mention at that point, is Rebecca Reynolds here? Where are you, Rebecca? Okay. Rebecca, and is Tim Blackwell still here as well? Tim Blackwell, I don't know if you're around, mate, but Rebecca, stand back up. This is an international movement now. It's not just you. I was in Australia recently. I was flown out for a conference there. That's my life now. No, not really. I was flown out for a conference there, and I met people just like you in Australia, suffering with the same problems and challenges you're facing. They're going to form a Music Venue Trust Australia. Rebecca was the first person who ever phoned us about this on an international level, and she runs the Music Venues Alliance Austin. And by the way, if you can catch her in the bar, get her to tell you exactly how much money she's got out of the Austin government and the Texas government, because you will shit yourself when you hear it. You will literally go, sorry, what? £100,000 back on liquor taxes? $100,000 back, is it? Anybody want $100,000? Open a venue in Austin. There you go. Big round of applause for Rebecca. There are people now across the world like Rebecca opening things like Music Venues Alliance. This is turning into a big global movement now, where grassroots venues are going to demand that we get the respect we deserve. And honestly, I'm super proud. If we ever helped in any way whatsoever, Rebecca, then I'm fucking proud of having done it. But I have to say, definitely we should all move to Texas. Let's go to Texas.
And now to the partner organizations. A lot of them are in the room today, people that help shape and advise the work of the MBT, such as the amazing Attitude is Everything, Musicians Union, Help Musicians, Music Minds Matter, Tonic Rider, Come Play With Me, Black Lives in Music, Good Nights Out, and Safe Gigs for Women. What a bunch of legends I just mentioned there.
You have. A huge, one of the most inspirational figures for me in the whole music industry, frankly, is Suzanne from Attitude is Everything. That's how to run a campaign. That's how to be dedicated to it and to make real positive change happen over years and years of work. I don't even know how many years of work you put in, Suzanne. 24 years. Oh, God, where are we going to be in 10 years? That was the question, wasn't it? Yeah. But an organisation like Attitude is Everything is inspirational to us, and they've been guiding lights for us, and they've done so much work. But there are lots of organisations like that who really want to help this sector. They want to be supportive, and they've got really positive ideas. I was really pleased when I walked around that bit today, how many venues have gone up and learned something from these organisations. I think it's really great that we've got this network of partners that are genuinely inspirational to us and provide a place to go.
Amazing.
And checking her watch, by the way.
Quickly, I understand that not many people remember it, but all the people that helped to deliver that first Venues Day on the Sex Pistols boat back in 2014.
Hands up if you were a venue and you came to the first Venues Day. Yay.
Wow, good turnout. Well done. Well done for surviving. The boat, not the 10 years, for surviving the boat.
I do honestly want us to reopen the bar and let you go back to celebrating, but we do need to thank some people who helped deliver the first Venues Day in 2014. And again, I'm going to name check Suzanne because she contacted me and said, we need to be part of this. And she came along and we learnt stuff we had no idea about. So along with Suzanne Bull, I would like to specifically thank, and I'm going to list them all and then you can clap them, Jane Bees, Chris Prosser, Orla Hannon, Mark and Nita Randall, Julia Payne, Gary Prosser, Joe Dipple, Rob Chalice, Gideon Feldman, Sarah Thurtle, Lucy Stone, Sean Adams, Phil Nelson, and representatives from Arts Council England.
Woo! And now to the people that put their hand in their pocket and made today possible.
Or helped organise it so that it happened on a shoestring.
So who have we got? We've got Ticketmaster over there. Give us a wave, Ticketmaster.
Listen to me for a second. This is the one room that could possibly applaud Ticketmaster, all right? And you should do that because they have supported us to come together every year for the last 8 years.
No,
they
from
pay for the travel
2015.
bursaries. 2009 years. They pay for the travel bursaries. They subsidise the tickets. You don't have to love what they do as a business, but you know what? The people who work for the company are fucking brilliant. I won't take any shit for them on their behalf. You can probably read me defending them on the fucking Twitter from idiots who don't understand the music industry. A round of applause for Ticketmaster, believe it or not. How about that?
We should also say a special thank you to Fred Perry, the National Lottery, Free Now, Jack Daniels, Fightback Lager, delicious, Coca-Cola, Skittle, Gigantic, Amazon Music, and the Greater London Authority.
I'm sorry, Bev, but about the time. I'm just going to pick one of those out. But there's lots of people doing really great things and offering things. One thing I would say to you all collectively, listen, there's quite a lot of companies trying to help now, which is really, really good. It does need you to get involved a bit. There's not enough venues yet stocking Fightback Lager. I'll pick them out particularly. They give you free beer every year, but they do a really great deal now, and every pint they sell helps Music Venue Trust to give you the emergency response service. If you're not yet stacking. If you're not yet stocking Fightback Lager, please think about it because it genuinely helps. It's only pence on a pint, but it genuinely helps us to give you the emergency response and other things like that. So.
And they sent me some during lockdown. It's lovely. It's really nice.
It's nice beer.
And thank you to everyone who helped with the donations and fundraising, specifically Warner Music, Bonhams and the O2 for continuing to work with us. Mark, Bev, anything to end on?
Yeah, I've got one for
No, hang on. I want to say we've probably forgotten someone, and I'm really sorry my brain is mush. I wrote the thank yous, and if we should have thanked you and we haven't, it's on me. I'm really sorry. We love you anyway.
No, I've got one person who hasn't been properly thanked. Here's the one person you've all got to thank. Your event producer, Beverly Whitrick. Woo! Stunning fucking job.
And everyone, please remember to have your photo take. Is that the photo area over there, Bev, in front of this lovely step and repeat? We're going to go do it now. Everyone follow us once again. To all of you.